you. We are so excited to be here. As I'm listening to what's going on, the possibilities we have with Wekong is unbelievable. Almost anything you can imagine, I believe we will be able to achieve. What we want to do in this presentation is to transfer our knowledge of biological signaling to you as distributors. If I'm successful in helping you understand what we do, then you can bring in millions of new distributors and make everybody have a much better life. We believe, and we have patterned our technology around the body being able to heal itself if it's given the right environment and the right support. We have been in the biological signaling business for nearly 20 years, and we literally have hundreds of thousands of people that have benefited from our technology. We are the only company in the biological signaling area that has been willing to go to major universities and have the universities do independent research on our claims. These two universities behind me, the University of Alabama, is a perennial national championship in our American football. We did our research literally one block from the Alabama football complex, and everybody there knew exactly what we were doing with our research. We were able to demonstrate in double-blind studies that we could increase muscle endurance with our holograms only. This study had no bands involved, strictly the hologram. We demonstrated that we could increase muscle endurance and improve recovery at the same time from physical activity. This helps not only individuals, but if you give an athlete this kind of ability, you can create a huge competitive advantage for the athlete. We did a second study at Troy University, which is where I went to school, and we concentrated on their football team, and we were able to demonstrate that with our band, we could lower heart rate and blood pressure for elite athletes. If you combine lower heart rate, lower blood pressure, increase muscle endurance, and improve recovery time, any athlete or person can perform better. Both of these studies were approved by the universities, were presented at national conferences in the U.S., and were published. The National Institute of Health in the U.S. commissioned a study to see if the human biofield could be identified. The chairman of that study happened to be a researcher that we were using in our business at the time. So in simple terms, the biofield is a field around us that extends out several centimeters and is in constant action with the biofield of the Earth and even the biofield of the universe. What we found was if we put a programmed hologram in that biofield, so with your wristband, the hologram is in the wristband is in the biofield is communicating with not only the interior part of your body, but also the exterior outside of your field, and it turns on by the body's energy. This is so difficult for biologists and physicists to understand, and the question always becomes, well, what electronics are causing this to happen? The electronics just happen to be the human biofield that is constantly pulsing between the environment outside and the body on the inside. We need no external stimulus to make this work because the body makes it work. Here's an example. with your cell phone. The cell phone signal comes from the tower and hits the phone. That makes the phone work. With our technology, the hologram inside the biofield automatically makes the technology work. If you understand that everything is spinning and everything is vibrating, the floor, the microphone, the speakers, your chairs, then you can kind of understand how everything in the universe works. Here's an example of various types of spin, and especially the spin in the center of this particular slide. 20 years ago, we looked at this spin and realized we could create what are called longitudinal scalar waves with this type of spinning system. No one was doing this or realizing this at the time some 20 years ago. So how are we able to program a hologram? We have gradually over time evolved into programming more with light waves, which are photons. The reason for this is that by using photons of light, we create a much larger and more powerful frequency set for transferring information into our holograms. An interesting point that we found was that the yellow lines up here were literally going into the future, and the blue lines were coming back from the future. So photons out, anti-photons back. The anti-photons, blue lines, actually act more like the original longitudinal scalar waves we started using 20 years ago. To give you a comparison, in our system, we're able to program with a waveform in light that's 1,000 times stronger than the current transmission wave that you get from your cell phones. Now, this is really incredible. We were able to slow down our scope enough to actually pick up the packets of information that were circulating through our circuit and going into our holograms. I'm not aware of any other company in the world that has ever shown anything like this. This is something that is equally important in our system, and it really should be near and dear to the Chinese heart. When we started our company in 2006, we named it 8.com or 8labs.com. The reason for that is we looked at the Chinese culture and realized that for thousands of years, the Chinese have known that the number 8 can give you a sense of prosperity and good fortune. We literally took patterns like this with the double 8s in the center and ran hundreds of tests on people to see how their biofield responded. We found that the biofield responded stronger to the double 8s and this pattern you see on the hologram to everything else we tested. So when you put your band on every day, you've got the good fortune that's generated by the number 8s. We did a presentation in Taichung a couple of years ago to 5,000 people. I told them when they put their bands on, they were being powered by the stars, and they believed me. Now I can demonstrate exactly what I meant by that. So the small dot on the top screen is the star Vega. Vega is 150 trillion miles from the Earth. By taking a picture of the star and looking at the emission field from the star, we can actually transmit that emission field into nanometers and put it into our bands. So when I tell you you're powered by the stars, this is exactly the reason that that's the truth. Now here is some real live proof of what we're doing. We use blood testing with a company in Kentucky called True Diagnostics. They have the most advanced formulas, I'm going to make this simple, the most advanced formulas for looking at your blood and determining your biological clock and how old you are. They look at it in relation to an intrinsic report, and they also look at it in regard to an extrinsic report. The extrinsic report, which I think is going to be really important for Mr. Wong as we start working on projects together, factors in the immune system. So what we're seeing from an aging standpoint is the immune system appears, and this is, we've just been doing this a couple of years, but the immune system appears to have more to do with lifespan than anything else. If we can support the immune system with our biological signaling, we literally have the opportunity to reverse aging. Here's an example. I did the blood test when I was 76 years old. And on my blood test, it showed that intrinsically I was 9 years younger than 76 years old. The diagnostic company actually called me and they said, Warren, we've tested 100,000 people and you've got the biggest difference between your chronological age and your biological age of anybody we've tested. If we look at the extrinsic age, which has the immunity factor built in, I was 13 years younger, so 76 and 62, 76 and 67. So that tells us initially that the immune system has a lot to do with aging. So let's roll the clock further a couple of years. When I was 78 years old, I thought I would get back a report that said I couldn't be going down anymore in age. 2 years later, when I should have been getting older, I was actually getting younger even more. So not only did I not age, I actually continued to go back in aging. Then if you factor in the immune side or the extrinsic aging, at 78, my extrinsic age was 50 years old. So I dropped 27 years in age in 2 years of advancement. Now, if you don't believe me, you might really be shocked at my daughter Meredith. So 2 years ago, Meredith was 70 pounds larger, and I'm being nice, than she is now. Her fitness age dropped by 6 years, which was impressive, but her extrinsic age, factoring in our immunity signaling, dropped nearly 30 years. So she went from 50 years old chronologically down to her mid-20s. Now, Meredith is our model. She is our inspiration. So she started exercising, and that got me exercising, and that got my wife exercising. And Meredith constantly monitors me wherever I go. If she sees me drive by a gym and not stop and go in, she calls me on the phone and said, Dad, you just passed the gym. So let's look at my wife. So Michelle is really smart. She's had her own construction company. When I met her, she was an anchor for ABC on the nightly news in Montgomery, Alabama. When I saw her on TV, I thought to myself, I've got to have this woman. So Michelle is also a triple distinguished Toastmaster. She spent 7 years getting these certificates saying what a good speaker she was. When the Toastmasters were not speaking, they were eating. So she blew up like the first picture over here. She gained a lot of weight. Then we all got into exercise because of Meredith, and now she's the same hot woman that I saw on TV 46 years ago. Lucky me. Okay, I'm going to blow through this right quick. When you make a cell phone call, see if I can find my cell phone somewhere here. So the signal comes from the tower, hits the back of your phone, goes into the palm of your hand, goes down your wrist, and ropes up your red blood cells. The top slide. When your cells rope up, the ability for oxygen to get into your bloodstream goes down. When the oxygen goes down, it's tied into the ATP cycle of your body, and your energy level goes down. And one of your distributors, Serena, I don't know where she is right now, somewhere, she's a blood specialist, a blood doctor, and she researched us, and she started seeing all these things that we were talking about. When we put the hologram, let me back up. There are companies out there that claim, put our device on the back of your phone and we can block the emissions from the cell tower. This is total nonsense. It's impossible to block the signal, but you can filter the signal and cause the blood to separate, like the lower slide. When the blood separates, the blood cells, and that includes the white cells, the platelets, when everything starts separating, your oxygen level goes up, your ATP levels go up, and your body becomes more healthy. We have literally done hundreds of live blood tests, and the roping effect over here came from the cell phone. Then by putting the filter on, immediately the cells would separate, and there was literally, we've done it so many times, there is no doubt this is exactly what's going on. So I've spoken in 20 conferences in 12 countries, make that 13 countries now in 21 conferences. So somebody must think I know what I'm talking about. I had some Chinese words and I've forgotten them now. Woman Zhan Yiqi. Thank you so much.